Hey everyone, welcome. So we had someone that needed to go, so had something to deal with real quick. She said she'll be right back. So I'll just talk to you before. So we have an update with the New Orleans escape. So they caught three of them today. They caught three of the inmates. So there's three inmates got caught today. Two of them were caught in Texas, Huntsville. So that's at least some good news. The other one was caught in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So that's three off the streets. And then so now they got two on the lam running from authorities. So out of the 10 that escaped from the New Orleans parish jail, there's only two left. So now they are arresting people that supposedly helped them in some way, one way or the other. They arrested the maintenance worker, as I mentioned before, who was threatened with a shank to turn off the water, along with a bunch of other people who allegedly gave him rides or money or whatever. They're not releasing too many details on that, except that their bail is over $1 million. So I think that's quite punitive, in my opinion. So there's the update on that. So now there's another escape out of Arkansas. This escape business is getting contagious, apparently. So now they're looking for hey Maddie Ann. So apparently this escape business is getting a little contagious. So someone escaped, a former cop, escaped from the state prison in Arkansas. So this guy, he's Silicon Shan. So this guy got the bright idea to get a uniform of a law enforcement officer and sneak out. Now they're looking for him. Now he didn't have much of a he didn't have like 8 hours head start like the other inmates in New Orleans, but they're still looking for him, and it's been 24 hours, more than 24 hours. So they're not releasing too many details on that escape. They seem to be really, really, really embarrassed that this happened. So it doesn't surprise me any. So did everyone know that they finally solved the mystery of Alcatraz? The 1962 escape from Alcatraz prison. It's not really making the news. So, the story that we're getting, that we got from all these years, was they stole spoons. Yep. Of course. One was found sleeping on a bench. Supposedly. One was found underneath the car in a parking garage. But so the story we're told for over 50 years in Alcatraz was that they stole spoons from the mess hall. They picked away at the concrete vent at night, and they snuck behind the utility corridor. This is confirmed. And they stole rain jackets, got a raft made from instructions from the library. They had books on it, and climbed up a shaft to the roof. And got out in June of 1962. This is confirmed. Now, what they didn't tell everyone for all these years was I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it. So, what they weren't telling everyone is that there was a tunnel underneath Alcatraz. Now, they're not saying a lot about the tunnel. They're not releasing photos of the tunnel. They're not saying exactly where the tunnel leads. But apparently, there was a tunnel underneath Alcatraz. Yeah, Maddie Ann. So in the 60s, the salt water was corroding the walls at Alcatraz. So the inmates noticed this and took advantage of it. So the following year, they had to shut the place down because it was insecure. So there was a secret passageway underneath Alcatraz. And this was found out last year or the year before. They were expanding the museum at the prison, the former prison. And the FBI had to be called to explore the tunnel complex, which was pretty complex. It wasn't built by inmates. Yeah, I don't know about that. If Trump wants to reopen the place, he's going to have to tear the place down and start from scratch. And along with that tunnel, it's it depends on where the tunnel leads. If it leads to the mainland, ouch. It's but they can always build on another part of the island facility and leave the rest of it as a museum. But they noticed expanding the museum that there was a wall or something that didn't match the blueprints. So they went in and they found a big shaft. So they went in and investigated, and they found a few rooms down there. So the inmates in 1962 didn't know about it. No, West Hawkins, that wasn't in the movie. If you watch the movie, they cut through the was it the vent or whatever, and then they hop through they get to the roof, Yeah, it's already a museum. So the tunnel wasn't really known to anyone. And what they noticed about the tunnel was it was built before it even became a federal prison. All right. So before Alcatraz became a federal penitentiary in 1934, it was actually a U.S. military installation. So there are probably some parts of the island that are still untapped. Secrets still need to be awakened and found. So for over 50 years, yeah, those because there was an unused service corridor behind the cells, and then you go up a circular thing. Oh, thank you so much, Maddie Ann. I really appreciate it. So they went up to the roof. The inmates went up to the roof with their They went up to the roof. The three inmates, the Anglin brothers and Frank Morris, got into the the raft or whatever you want to call it, and they disappeared. So over the years, it was a mystery on what happened. Did they make it? Did the inmates make it? Did they survive? Now, did the inmates survive the escape at Alcatraz? Thank you so much again, Maddie Ann. So, did the inmates at Alcatraz survive? Now, we just found out this year that they didn't. Now, there were several yeah, they died. And I'm going to explain what actually happened, all right? So, there were books in the library on the tides of San Francisco Bay. So between 11 o'clock and midnight, the plan of the inmates was to go to Angel Island with their raft, let the current take them there. And something happened. Now, according to their autopsy reports, they found their bodies. The one had a brain injury. The other the two Anglin, Frank Morris had I don't know if it was Frank Morris or one of the Anglin brothers had a brain injury. The other had a broken ribs and a percussion. So they're theorizing that the raft got too close to Angel Island and hit the rocks. It was pitch dark. It was like pitch dark. Yes, they did S-Hocket. They found all three of them. They found all three of their bodies at Angel Island. It washed up to shore. But the reason why they couldn't find them was because they were buried underneath the sand and mud. So a nice big storm in San Francisco Bay unearthed the bodies. So they were washed up on Angel Island in a rocky area. So, the morning of the escape, when they discovered that they were gone, they searched Angel Island. And this part of Angel Island is very inaccessible by foot. So, and they looked down, they searched, and they couldn't find them. So I'm thinking it's like they were in the water. So the cause of death is hypothermia from the cold water, along with injuries. So they're thinking that the raft hit some rocks and all three of them died. Now, there was some conspiracy theories all right throughout the years. There was one person that confessed on his deathbed that he murdered all three of them driving into Canada or something like that from Seattle. That turned out to be a hoax. Then there was the letter. From someone trying to make a deal for cancer treatment. That was in 2013. Then there was a photo of people of two people that they claim it was the Anglin brothers, two of the escapees. A photo in Brazil, which kind of resembled them. A 94%, 95% match to facial recognition. But it wasn't over the threshold. So the test was inconclusive to determine whether it was them or not. The letter in 2013 had no fingerprints on it or DNA, so they couldn't conclusively determine if it actually came from one of the Anglin escapees or from Frank Morris himself. So they find the bodies off the shore of Angel Island, and they think the plan was just to scoot off of Angel Island and to go to towards the Golden Gate Bridge on the west side and scoot to freedom. But they hit some rocks. They didn't account for the rocks. There was a little miscalculation on the rocks in shallow part of Angel Island, So it's conclusive as of now that the three escapees on June of 1962 died the night they escaped. They didn't survive. They didn't live the rest of their lives. And a little known fact, there was supposed to be a fourth escapee that night. At first, he couldn't get out of his he couldn't get through the hole he dug through the wall. Then he finally got through and everyone was gone. The rest of the inmates were gone with the raft. So he just got back in his cell and so his name was Alan West. He died in 1978 in another prison. So he was a lifelong jailbird, and he claims they're heading to Angel Island, and they were going towards Marin City or whatever you want to call it at the time. That was his claim to the FBI. So there's a few other facts that that were sort of kept hush hush that we're learning from some of the guards, the surviving guards from Alcatraz. So the staff was told to keep their mouths shut about movement in the walls or underneath their feet. That's strange, isn't it? They were just told to ignore it. That would coincide with maybe the tunnels, the tunnel underneath the prison, maybe in certain areas of the penitentiary. So I saw this. I saw several videos on Alcatraz, and I says, mystery solved. FBI and Alcatraz. So I listened to several. I listened to like to 6 hours, 6 to 8 hours worth of content, and I'm like, whoa, they're really onto this now. An advancement of technology. We have an advancement of technology, and those bodies, and those bodies, those 3 bodies they found, they DNA tested them, and they're conclusive for the inmates. So not only do we have dental records, but now we have DNA evidence that conclusively shows that those 3 bodies found in the sediment off of Angel Island is indeed those 3 inmates, Clarence Anglin, John Anglin, and Frank Morris. They didn't survive. So they're listing the cause of death as hypothermia and injuries caused by crashing into shore. So they can't really tell us without a crystal ball what actually happened. All right. They can't actually tell us exactly what went wrong that night for the inmates. Yeah, I agree with you, Socket. And it was a secret. There was a room. There was a room in the tunnel. There was a room that had encryptment. Not how do I say this? Encryption devices, a radio, maps on the table of the bay, currents that were not computer generated. They were old. The map, the items in the tunnel dated from the 1920s to the 60s. So it was in use before it was a state prison, a federal penitentiary, and during. So there are many theories on what those tunnels underneath Alcatraz were used for. Everything from the CIA doing experiments on inmates, sneaking onto the island, to anything, really. It could have been used for national defense. They could have used. They could have been underground with radar, for all we know. There's no actual record except for clues, small little clues in the yeah, there are people. I'm sure they were up to no good. in those tunnels. They had they had a bathroom down there. They had yeah, it is hard to tell. It is hard to tell what they were used for. There's there are records down there that the pages are so old that they're yellow and falling apart. So I think the FBI is scanning them and trying to read what is on them. I'm sure we're not going to get a clear answer from the FBI about anything down there, but now I'm hearing Donald Trump is still adamant on making Alcatraz Island a federal penitentiary again. But here's another interesting fact, something that wasn't really well known while I was going through while I was researching this. There was another inmate that escaped from Alcatraz right after the three. This was in December of 1962. Now, there isn't much information on that escape, except that they found the inmate swimming in San Francisco Bay, suffering from hypothermia, almost dead. Almost at shore. So there was so there were two escapes at Alcatraz, successful escapes in the year of 1962. Two breakouts that were successful. So they were forced to close it down. And I think it's a very bad idea to reopen the place as a federal prison. Yes, the waters of San Francisco Bay are cold. Yes, the currents are very harsh. But these days, you could probably swim across the bay. If you're a good enough swimmer. It is possible. It was just, didn't you ever hear the old saying from 1912 when they built the Titanic? Oh, look, we built an unsinkable ship. And on its maiden voyage, it sunk. Same thing with the jail. Same thing with the prison. Even a super maximum security prison like Alcatraz. You can't make a prison unescapable. All right? Isn't Alcatraz a lesson to that? Take a look at New Orleans. They built a new county jail 10 years ago with all the bells and whistles. All the newest technology. All the newest features. However, they didn't keep up the maintenance on the New Orleans facility. Hey, Bernie. They didn't keep up the maintenance. So the locks broke. Then you had staff failures. The staff started not following the rules. They stopped following policies. And look at what happened. You had 10 people escape from the county jail, the parish jail in New Orleans. Yeah, human error. You had a staff shortage in New Orleans, all contributing. And guess what? The inmates have all day to sit there and watch the guards, look at where there are weaknesses in security, and they exploit it. They exploit. I just don't. This is what I don't understand. You had very dangerous inmates on the first floor. Supposedly, the guards weren't watching the inmates take out a toilet. That had to make some noise, doesn't it? Unless you had one guard doing 2 units in the county jail. Once the guard steps out, there goes the noise. And here's something I thought about. All right, this is just a theory or some common sense. All right, if a guard sees other inmates using another cell to go to the bathroom, wouldn't that raise alarm bells when they don't report to corrections officers that my toilet's not working? Wouldn't that raise some alarm bells? Yeah, I hope people are held accountable for this. It's just unacceptable. And that place in New Orleans needs funding to fix that place up. The locks failed, obviously. All you have to do is push on the door back and forth a few times and they open. It's obvious that place is not safe. Yeah. You would think, it's and it's strange, and here's the strange part of it all. All right. Of the county jail. You had 10 inmates, the most dangerous you could lock up. All right, all for murder. They're all locked up for murder. What's taking so long to sentence them? And sending them to state prison? What's taking them so long to take them to trial? The county jail is supposed to be a short-term solution. Hold them till they go to trial situation. Is the criminal justice system this slow? That's another thing that needs to be looked at. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Bernie. The prisons are so overpacked and understaffed And then you get the staff that doesn't care anymore. Because they feel they're underpaid or underappreciated or something like that. Or the place isn't getting fixed. And they don't feel safe at work. Especially if the staff don't feel safe at work. They're not going to do their job correctly, are they? They're not going to stop fights. They're not going to do their rounds like they're supposed to if they don't feel safe, right? They're going to avoid the inmates at all costs. If the locks can just be opened, can be broken just by moving the door a couple times. Trying to open the door like 10 times. And then bam. It's all caught on tape. The whole thing's caught on tape. Yeah, the whole thing's caught on tape, and it's pretty disgusting. It's pretty disgusting. So okay, everyone, I'm gonna go now. Nikki should be might be going live soon again. So all right. I'll see everyone next time, and thanks for the memberships and the $10, Maddie, and I really appreciate it. So all right. See y'all later.